Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another review, and today I'm taking a look at another 30-minute fantasy kit. This right here, once again, is one step closer, or should I say at this point, 2 steps closer to Dark Souls and Souls-based plastic model kits. This, of course, is the 30-minute fantasy Liber fighter, and the reason I say, just like the last time, that this is a step closer to Souls plastic model kits, which I really do hope happens, is because we did have 30-minute missions, which eventually evolved to have From Software's IP, Armored Core, being Armored Core 6. So there is a chance they're heading towards Souls with these kits right here, and I'm super hoping that they do. We did see one before, that was the Liber Knight. If you want to check that out, you can do that right now. It looked a little bit like this right here. It was super awesome, and I assume this one will be super awesome too. Let's check it out. Oh yeah, and I got mine through HobbyLink Japan, link in the description. So jumping on into the aesthetics, and this right here is what you get once you finish the Liber fighter. Very similar to the Liber Knight, but of course you've got red instead of that kind of blue color, and it's a little bit broader in the waist and up at the head. This right here, of course, is not where we end off. This doesn't look like a knight at all. This is just the kind of robot aspect which is underneath, because these kits aren't necessarily people in knight armor. These are kind of like mecha suits that are piloted remotely. They're still human-sized as far as I know, but they are 100% a robot. Anyway, there's a bit of a front and back view of what this looks like once it is complete. So again, similar to the Liber Knight, but a little bit different. This is the platform to add the armor on, and I do have 3 different armors to try on it today, only one of which, however, does come included inside of this box. So when it does come to how this kit feels, out of box they are incredibly nice. These are just like 30-minute missions, but for the most part they are pretty much 100% plastic on plastic joints. There are the occasional polycap ones in here as well, if I am not mistaken. Actually, no, it looks like I am 100% mistaken. Yeah, these are 100% plastic on plastic, so they're more akin to something like a figurized kit than, say, something Mecha from Bandai like Gundam or something similar like that. They are incredibly nice to pose, but as you can see, without the armor, they do look somewhat, if not a little bit, on the goofy side. So let's get it armored up. But actually, before that, I will test out the normal test pose just so you can see what these can pull off when they don't have any armor on, because something like this is almost, well, I would say very useful as kind of like an artist reference, really, for humanoid bodies. You can kind of pose it whichever way you want. It's very humanoid and human-like and realistic. So again, that's another thing. These are not overly expensive, so if you do want a little bit of an artist model, these do help. I will also mention on these, we do have clear parts inside of the eyes, as well as this little section on its chest, which is its element. I assume this one is fire, like the knight was water. So very similar to Bandai's 30-minute sisters, in order to get the armor onto it, you need to remove these little ring sections. We have these at the upper legs as well as the upper arms as well. To get the armor on, we do have to remove 2 segments, that being the chest. Right here, I will recommend a part separator for taking that off because it is attached on quite tight, and the mouth segment right here, that comes off quite easy. So as for getting the armor attached on, we're going to start off from the head down. So you do attach in this big jaw section, followed by a face mask aspect, and then a little bit of a part that attaches into the back, giving it a bit of a crest across the top and back of the head. Looking awesome so far. This point I did realize that the instructions said you should dismember this thing to pieces before you actually do that, so who was I to argue with the instructions? Dismembered I did. Next up then is the torso, so you add on the rear armor, which has the shoulders attached onto it, the pauldrons. You actually can choose not to have them on just yet, but I thought it was a little bit easier. The breastplate then attaches onto the front, followed by a big old collar section. Now you can see this adds so much to what was looking a little bit on the plain side. Down at its waist unit then, you just attach on this section onto the back, which has both skirting armor sections from the side, and then you attach on a front piece of armor just like so. Down at the legs, we've got some more armor to attach on besides that bit I already showed. That is some side armor onto the sides of the legs, making it nice and thick. 3 pieces of armor attach into the front, that is up at the thigh, the knee, as well as the foot section. Again, thickening this up and really making this look like a heavily armored knight. The last segment then is the arms, so you just attach on 3 sections of armor onto this as well. That is up at the shoulder, at the wrist, both of these are onto those circular aspects with the 3mm pegs, and finally then onto the back of the arm, just like so at the elbow. Once again, making it good and thick. Reassembly is as simple as just popping on the legs, pop on the torso, the arms, followed by the head, and this looks so good. The change has been drastic and awesome. So anyway, there we are jumping into Aesthetics 2.0 with all of the armor on. This looks ridiculously cool. This was the one I was looking forward to. The Liber Knight looks very, very nice, but this just looks like it means business. There's some incredible curves, some nice pointy aspects, and overall this looks like some heavy-duty armor right here. So sadly, once again, I don't have the time to panelize this considering everything that is going on with trying to make a bunch of videos, getting through the backlog, and massive power loss, and a bunch of other things. So I will try to get some nice harsh lighting to bring out some of the various detail molded into this because it does look very, very nice. As you can see, if we're getting a little bit close to the face there in the helmet, there is lots of little dot aspects in it. So getting a bit of ink into those will bring that out. All around the collar as well, and there's lines through all of the different panels of armor that you could differentiate very nicely with some ink. Personally myself, if I did actually have the time, what I would do with this is I would spray the entire thing black, probably Chaos Black by Citadel, and I'd dry brush the whole thing in kind of increasing layers of silver, from a dark silver to a very bright one, just to kind of bring out that detail. I think that would look incredible. Other fantastic options as well would be the Chrome Mecha pen by Bandai. This is pretty much a pen that has chrome paint inside of it. You can paint right onto the plastic. It goes right on and dries with a complete chrome finish, which would look absolutely ridiculous. Always a very nice option. So just in case you're curious, there it is side by side with the previous release, which is the Liber Knight. So as you can see, the Knight seems like it is a little bit taller, but a little bit leaner too. This one is thicker and shorter, and it does say Silhouette 1 on the Knight and Silhouette 2 on this particular fighter. So there are multiple silhouettes for these, and of course there are the Rosen versions as well, which are on black plastic, as opposed to the light grey right here. Also, the Knight right there has been panelined, so that gives you a little bit of an idea of what you'll get if you get a little bit of ink into all of the grooves all over the place, just to bring out that detail. Also, the Knight right there is equipped with its weapons, the fighter is not, so I think it's about time to actually dip back into the box and see what we get when it comes to the equipment. So when it does come to the equipment in here with the Liber fighter, this right here is what we get. So we do get 4 alternate hands, that's 6 include the fists attached, an axe, a shield, and some adapters as well. So we do have a pair of every hand that's in here. That's the fist over there. We also have a widespread hand like that. The detailing on the palm and the rear is extremely, extremely nice. Again, a pair of those, as well as holding hands for holding onto the equipment, which is the shield and the axe. Again, a pair of these. As for the adapters in here, they are for on the shield. So we've got the handle adapter, which looks just like so if you want it held in the hand. Changing the adapters is just a 3mm peg, pull out and in like so. We've got this adapter right here. This is just for example, slapping the shield onto its back, just like so for storage. And the one right here, which is the one I plan to use, which is for affixing the shield onto the forearm, which kind of keeps it out of the way of the hand entirely. So in order to do that, now you just pop that little peg into that there hole, and it attaches on super simply like that right there. And you still have the hand as well down there, so that's handy. The last piece of equipment you then have in here is this right here, which is a big old axe. Once again, this is the exact same handle we would have seen on the Liber Knight's sword. The only thing that's different is the axe attachment, which affixes into the top like so. So simple, all in one color, and it's up to yourself if you do want to paint it or not. All of the wrists and the hands in here are articulated. These are the more figurized standard ones, which is a bit of a split joint, and does have a point of rotation here and here when it's attached in. As for the hands that hold onto the weapons, these are a little bit simpler. These don't rotate at the top, just at the base towards the forearm, and we do have a simple hinge at that point there. Swapping the hands just involves popping these out, pop in the one that you do want, and then as for the weapon, that just slides on into the hand, just like so. It holds on okay. It is a circular handle into a square hand, so it can rotate a little bit, especially when we do add some of the optional extensions onto it. But that right there, that is the equipment that comes inside of this box. So finally, to get into a little bit of a pose, I'm going to be using this stand right here. This is one of Bandai's own action bases sold separately. This is an action base 7. You can just pop this in here or any 3mm hole that's on it, and then you can just get it into whatever kind of pose that you're looking for. So as for getting this into a pose, I didn't go with anything too exciting today. I'm just going with what is pretty much on the box. Getting this into a pose is very fluid, very nice. These are so much fun to pose. This is the first pose right here, and it worked out really well. Again, off the box, it's walking towards, looking menacingly, and the Dark Souls feel is definitely here. Give this a nice, dark metallic paint job, and this will look incredible. The actual mecha aspects of this is very well hidden when all the armor is put on, which is something that I really do like. I prefer the more knight aesthetic than the kind of cyborgy thing we've got going on underneath. Anyway, so far so good, and we do have 2 more options available for this particular kit. Now, these are sold separately, I will mention, so the next 2 things that I'm looking at did not come inside of this box, but I'll throw links to those down in the description as well. I will admit it is making me a little bit sad to think that I am going to be taking this armor off. I did the exact same thing with the options for the Liber Knight right here, and I put its armor right back on again because I do feel personally that the stuff that comes inside of the box with these does look the best. It matches with the inner kind of frame aspects better than the kind of colors that we're going to be seeing. I kind of wish that those particular option sets did come in the grey as well as an option, so they just match out of box a little better. So the first one of these we're going to be taking a look at is this right here. Now this is, as you can tell, I built already. This is the Liber Warrior class up armor. So this is a bunch of brown and red sections, which gives us more of an almost kind of barbarian kind of vibe. Let's try it on. So this right here is pretty much the picture right off the front of the bag. I was going to say box, but it is a bag. And around on the back of that then is the instructions. There was just 4 runners out of these, one of which is just a simple clear piece from the shield. And the assembly was super simple, and now it's time to just throw it on. So as for attaching on the Liber Warrior armor, this also involves disassembling the kit down to its base elements, being the torso, crotch, legs, arm, and head. First up at the head, this is one of 2 parts that you do have to remove some parts from. As for the parts you need to remove, they're all the additional parts we added on with the standard armor. Once you've removed these off, you attach on the new warrior parts in the exact same places we would have seen before. These parts are in brown and red. At the body, you do have to pop off the shoulders once again, but that's the only thing you have to pop off, and everything else, no more popping off of parts. It's just layering. You layer on a breastplate like so, a cape round back like this, and then 2 big pointed berserker looking shoulders. Down at the legs, it's simple. You just slide on a knee section like so on both legs. Very simple. Finally then is the waist unit, and what you're adding on here is a front and back skirting armor, which does have a little bit of a loincloth and some additional armor on these side skirts. There is nothing on the arms added, so you just put it all together, and this is finally what we get. Also, I will mention there are some additions to the weapons in here too. The shield has a little additional part that attaches onto the front like so, with a nice clear section matching the chest. And then when it comes to the axe, we're now making this into an almost kind of like pole arm or halberd kind of weapon. Basically add on a long stick bottom and a giant bladed part on top, which makes it look somewhere between a halberd, a spear, and almost like a staff. So I guess jumping into Aesthetics 2.0, there it is with the chocolatey armor on. Look how chocolatey that is. This really is making me want to eat some chocolate right now. So yeah, this is the almost barbarian-esque Liber Warrior armor. So as you can see, it's got a little bit of a loincloth there. That's not that badly done, to be blatantly honest. If you did actually paint this up with it matching the armor, you could get some nice texturing on that. The holes in it looking pretty cool. There is a round back. We've got more of that loincloth. Down bottom, a cape up top. This can swing side to side, so you can have it pointed whichever way you like. We have a bit of a barbarian-esque ponytail up on the top of the head right there. And once again, I will mention this hasn't been panlined, or no kind of detail has been popped on this whatsoever. So it does mean like some of the detail will be a little bit lost there, so I'm going to try and light it up a bit so you can check that out. It does look very nice. Again, the chocolatey brown is most definitely an interesting choice, especially with the grey right there. But again, I think sometimes Bandai does this in order to just make it pop a little bit from the actual kit itself. Overall, the barbarian aesthetic on this is quite nice. The detailing is great. And what can I say? There's, well, not really much else to say. I like it. Better looking than I thought it would. So attaching the weapons on is pretty much the same as before. This one pops onto the back of the arm just like this, adding some more detail onto the rear of the shield, or should I say the front of the shield. As for attaching on the big old new polearm weapon, in order to get the hand onto the stick that we've just added, this does involve disassembling the hand just like so, then sandwiching it on usual kind of model kit sandwich style. This is what we get in the end. Posing it is very, very nice. This is a good fluid kit, and there it is, pretty much in the exact same pose that's on the bag. But yeah, there we go. Once again, very, very nice. This actually looks nicer than I thought it would. On the bag, it looked a little bit on the cheap, silly side, but actually this does look great. Again, the only kind of down point to it, I feel, is the fact that the chocolatey armor doesn't match too well with grey. if it was in a closer color to the grey, it may match a little bit better. But of course, you can paint this kit whatever color you want and get yourself a cool, almost chaos-looking berserker. On to the next bag. The next bag we have in here is the class-up armor Liber Viking. As you can see right here, I have built this as well. Or should I say cut it out? It's not necessarily built. These are the parts that we do get in here, and we might as well, yeah, check them out. So once again, to get this armor on, we gotta strip it all down and get it down to its basic elements. So onto the head first, and just like we've seen the last time, you need to strip off all the armor from before. Well, that pretty much goes for everything. All of the armor we just had added on comes off. But once that's off the head, it's 3 parts to attach on, just like this. When we move down to the torso, this one is a little bit on the interesting side. The breastplate is pretty much the same, but the shoulders on this particular armor is asymmetrical. Or should I say are asymmetrical. We've got one big furry shoulder on one side and an armored one on the other. When it comes to the crotch segment on this is asymmetrical as well, removing one of the original Liber fighters' armor sections like so, adding on a new piece like this. We've got dual layered similar pieces from the butt flap, and around front we've got this circular piece of armor. When it comes to the arms, you need to remove the side armor and the wrist armor and attach on this armor right here. Now you're meant to actually pop back on these circular aspects for the wrists without the 3mm peg, but I could not have been arsed. And when it comes to the legs, finally, you just have to whip off the knees that were on there and add on these brand new knees. Alright, so finally getting this guy attached back together for the last time. So there is the armor. As you can see, it is asymmetrical. It seems like we've got a long part on one side and then on the other. Once we get everything attached together, we'll get that aligned up where it needs to go. Again, attachment of parts is super easy. I will mention that this was a little bit, I won't say harder, it's not really the right word, but it took a little bit longer and there was more removal of parts to attach on this armor compared to the other one. This little section right here has loosened up on me for whatever reason, probably from the reattaching and attaching of bits, but it is easy to just tighten up parts. Just add a little bit of paint or glue underneath, let it dry, and then attach the part back on. There we go, on with the head. There it is complete. Bringing the shoulders around and on. There's the first one. That is the standard kind of one. There is the other, so this is kind of like a fur. Again, this kit definitely will benefit from a bit of paint in whatever particular color you do want to put it in. Anyway, there we go. That is that set of armor right there. We also have a couple of weapon upgrades. Once again, just like we would have seen before, these attach onto the weapons just to kind of make them a little different. We've got 2 little parts that sandwich onto the axe to make it into a very, very big, thick axe that looks like a hammer on one side. And as for the shield, we've just got this cross or X-shaped bit of armor. It just attaches onto the top, just like what you're seeing right here. Getting these weapons attached on is exactly the same as what we would have seen before. So it just slides on into the hand like this. And as for the shield, I still just have the back of arm attachment point for it, and it still fits on even with the armor changed. So there it is, fully loaded up. So yeah, that right there is the Liber Viking, so that is what that looks like. Again, I feel like this actually suits on the grey a little bit better than what we would have seen with the chocolatey armor on the warrior version. Again, I have to say, out of all 3 that we've seen today, being the standard version, the warrior, as well as the Viking, just like with the Liber Knight, I do prefer the base kit itself. I think it just works better itself. Maybe it is a case of the colors just all match. I do like the standard Knight aesthetic compared to the more barbarian look and the Viking look, but depending on what you like, they all work out very, very well. Again, I do recommend painting these. These do look nice out of box. The option sets do look a little bit, well, they stand out a lot on the standard colored plastic and don't really... Well, the color scheme isn't that cohesive. I do think paint is the way to go if you want yourself a kick-arse looking knight, barbarian, or a Viking. Anyway, I got these through HobbyLink Japan. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more model kit reviews, and as always, I will see you next time. Once again, I can't finish this video right here without special thanks to the channel members and the patrons over on Patreon, including Simon Paskin, Abraxas, Caleb Engelhart, Joe, RG59061, ShadowWolf179, Van Fawn, and Scotty Thomas.